Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your 52nd HTML5 tutorial. And in this lesson, now that we understand the basics of the web storage API and how it can store variables, I want to show you guys the application of basically when and how you would build a program that would actually be useful. So right now what we did is we built a program that can say, okay, name, Bucky, and we can save it and pretty much make the text appear over here. Pretty cool, maybe, but this is pretty worthless. I mean, with this stupid thing, why wouldn't I just write the text over here? This is pretty much the most worthless program that I ever built. Well, that isn't what the web storage API was built for. I just want to show you guys that tutorial to give you guys a core foundation of the basics, how everything is pieced together. What it's built for is basically not only storing a single variable, but storing multiple variables and values. Not only storing multiple variables, but having it so you can go to a bunch of different websites, the newboston.org, forum, Yahoo, and then you can go ahead and come back and all of your information is still stored for you. Pretty awesome. So let me go ahead and explain to you guys how to do that. The very first thing that you want to do is I'm going to be changing up this program a little bit. Instead of, let me just go ahead and run this baby one more time. Instead of having it so it says nothing yet, Haas, whenever you first go to your website, I want to go ahead and display all of the variables you have stored. So what we need to do, instead of this display function passing in one parameter, it's not going to be passed in any parameters. And like I said, I want this to display as soon as we go to our website. So as soon as our website is done loading, this do first function is going to be called. So at the end of this function, go ahead and call display, and it's going to display all the variables on the right hand side. So basically, make sure you put this display at the end of your do first function. So now that you took your parameter out of this display as well, we can go ahead and start talking about the good stuff. Now check out our program right now. Right now we can type in something like person and Bucky and hit save, and it's going to go ahead and save that variable, but it's also going to keep the value or keep the data in it in these text boxes right here. So what we want to do is whenever we click this button, we want to take whatever's in these text boxes and pretty much clear them out like that. So what we need to do is basically access the content inside it through this thing right here, because document get element by ID value, this is a property that basically references the stuff inside the text boxes. So if we take that property and we set it equal to nothing like this, then whenever we hit the save button, it's going to go ahead and save our data, and then at the end it's going to reset the information inside to nothing. So that is how we do that. Now that we did it for the first text box, we can go ahead and do it for the second one by just doing that. So now set the property of the value of text box 1 and text box 2 to nothing, and then whenever we hit the save button, instead of keeping the values in there, it's going to clear them out just like that. So the only thing I want to do after this is change this display function a little bit. The first thing that I want to do is actually, I think it'd be better off if I just delete almost everything. So of course we want to reference the right box still, which is this blue box, because that's where we're going to be displaying the information. Now after that, what I want to do is I want to reset the inner HTML. So right box inner HTML. Now the property inner HTML references anything inside this blue box. So at first I want to say, okay, before I tell you what to write, just don't write anything at all. Just clear, if you had anything in there by default, just clear it out. So that's what that line of code does. Now what I want to do is I want to make a simple loop. Now why am I making a loop? I want to loop through every single piece of information that we stored, and I want to basically write each one line by line. So go ahead and make a for loop, and just go ahead and make a variable, call it like x or something, and set it equal to 0. Now if you say, okay, how do I know how many times to run this loop? Well, each variable we're going to be putting on a separate line. So you're saying, okay, then we probably need to run it as much as how many variables we have stored. But how do we know how many variables that the user has stored in their session? Well, what we can do is we can access a property called, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, session storage dot length. Now, what session storage.length is it's a property that's built in to your web storage API, and this property pretty much gives you the length of how many items are stored. So if you have 5 items stored, this would be 5. If you had 18 items stored, this value would be 18. So therefore, our loop is going to be it's going to loop through the appropriate number of times. And of course, the last thing we need to do is x++, which pretty much means loop one at a time, one by one. So now that this is looping 18 times if we have 18 items, 5 times if we have 5 items, let's go ahead and put something to output on the screen. The very first thing we need to do is we need to make a couple variables. Now, at first, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having what's it called? A variable just like before, like person, and I know I spelled that wrong, but Bucky. So person is basically the item name, the variable name. And I know I say like key item variables. I'm sorry if I'm complaining you. I'll try to call them items right now. So person is the name of the item and Bucky is the value. So what we need to do is make one variable equal to the name of the item. Now how we do this is we just access session storage, and just like an array, it has this built-in thing called key, and you could pass it in, excuse me, a number like X. So key 0 would be the first item in storage, key 1 would be the second, key 8 would be the ninth. It's just like an array. Basically, like an array is basically like a list of items, and you can pass in the number of what item in the list you want to access. This works the exact same way. So pretty much it's going to loop through, it's going to pass these in the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in return it's going to give you pretty much the name of the item at position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is like person, thing, lunchbox, tuna fish. It's pretty much a bunch of different names for items, and it's going to store those in the variable A so we can print those out later on. So, oh man, I'm running out of time. I'm just getting so excited. I'm running out of time. I'm not even gonna have time to finish this tutorial. So I'm gonna finish this tutorial in number 53. But we only got like a couple more lines of code to cover, and then I'm gonna be explaining it. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.